one of the things that people don't understand about kindness is it does have a physical reaction in your body. And if you and I, Chuck, exchange an act of kindness, your serotonin levels go up, so do mine. Serotonin are your happy hormones. Some other people say oxytocin. Same thing. It's all happy hormones. They're all going over one act of kindness.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the 1% Bttr Podcast. Today we have Teresa Ramirez on the pod. Teresa, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me, Chuck. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So with your journey, just with Journey in Kindness and your book, what really was the turning point or inspired you to embark on this mission and really promote kindness within families?
There was, unfortunately, a school shooting back in 2018, and I think it was in Florida. And God put it in my heart, sit down and write them a letter. So I wrote this letter, dear students, grieved with them, sympathized with them. But then I said, you know what? There is something you can do. And, sit with that kid that's sitting alone at lunch all the time. Talk to those people that you don't normally talk to. And if you know what it's like in school, you're always dropping something, whether it be books or pencils, whatever it might be. Help them pick it up. Don't just stand there and laugh at them. And, just take a different perspective and a different view of how you approach other people in your school. And then I didn't know what to do with it. So I set it aside, put it in a drawer. And then because I had parents and I had to drive 2 hours every week to go care for them for half the week. And at some point, it was too much to keep my full-time corporate job and continue to do what I was doing. So I retired, and then I'm like, well, I'm going to have to eventually make some income sometime. And I didn't know, and I found the letter, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to be doing something with this. And I started a 21-day kindness challenge on Facebook, and I was focused on the kids being better. And so I just went through, who do you encounter during their day? So you wake up, you've got parents, siblings, etc. Your challenge is to be kind to them. Day 1. Day 2, you've got the bus driver, carpool driver. Day 3, we've got teachers, principals, etc. Then we went through 30 days, and then I did throw an animal, be kind to an animal, be kind to the planet. That was all in there. And went out, spoke to a couple schools, and COVID hit. So where did we all end up, Chuck? We all ended up in front of our computers.
Yep.
And I started to really read what adults post. And it hit me. Doug, adults are just out and out mean to each other. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And I found out kids are reading your posts because, well, number one, they're reading it because they don't want you to write about them.
Sure.
Don't tell anybody anything about me. But then they're reading it and they're, okay, well, if you're posting that, then I can do it too. No. So I thought, I need to get to these parents.
Yeah.
And really get them to take control of the family. And I'm thinking back to my corporate roots. I'm like, the CEO, they set the tone, the philosophy, the values for the company. Parents should be doing that for their families.
Totally.
Yes. Yeah. So that's where all that came out. And so I switched my focus to parents. And as I was doing other podcasts, they're like, write it down. Why don't you read a book? Write it down. So that's how the book came about. And it launched this past May. But it's just, I decided parents are so busy. I didn't want to pile a bunch of stuff on their plate. So I came up with a simple, everyday process that you can use. And then you can gradually get better and better and make it bigger and bigger. But you start out small.
Totally.
With just the smile and a hello. sticky notes for the kids, whatever, sticky notes for his spouse. Just telling them how wonderful they are and what they
Excellent.
mean to you. But just keep it simple. And then like I said, then it graduates until
Yeah,
it gets to the real life situations.
absolutely. I think you do have to always start small with stuff because, I mean, it's a foundation. It's kind of like a home. You have to, as we're talking about homes, you have to start with that foundation and the pillars that really put everything together on top. Or you're going to have a house of cards. I want to talk about the philosophical roots behind it too. And just having you elaborate a little bit more about the philosophy of parents being the CEOs of their families. How did that concept develop? Did you have a CEO that you worked for that really embodied these types of principles
Yeah, our
and allowed you to
CEO,
take it?
I won't even go to, our CEO was good. And at the time, I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's changed since when I was there, but and you can see it filter down through leadership. So right down to my direct reporting manager. And, it didn't, nobody's perfect. And I want to point this out. Give yourself some grace. You don't have to be perfect. But they did put forth an effort to show kindness to everybody right down the line. And if he came into our department, he went and said hi to every single solitary person. And that says a lot because you've got to talk to everybody from the top down to who's in the mailroom. And he really made that.
Excellent.
He made a
Yeah.
point to do that. And you saw it in his direct reports. And like I said, right down to my manager.
It's kind of like if you look back at or look at sports, for
Yeah.
example, a lot of winning organizations that win championships typically start at the top of who is leading that organization, the owner. Then it goes to the general manager. Then it goes to the coaches. Then it goes to the players and the staff that helps the players and execute properly on the field or on the court or whatever
Yeah.
game we're talking about. But like you said, nobody's perfect. So what are common pitfalls in your experience where do parents often face these challenges of instilling kindness and encouraging growth in their families where there are pitfalls with it?
Some of the pitfalls, you need to be intentional.
Hmm.
You need to, like anything else, kind of plan ahead. Not huge. It doesn't have to be elaborate, but kind of plan ahead. And know that also the pitfall because you're dealing with kids that are experiencing peer pressure.
Sure.
And my thing is, why can't kindness be the peer pressure? Why aren't we why can't they pressure each other to be kind versus the opposite? But so parents being intentional about that puts that mindset in the kids. And that's down to, like, I know I use my nieces and nephews a ton. They have this little chalkboard and she's got a kind message on there for the week. And
Love
sometimes
that.
the kids come up with one. And that's in a prominent place in their home. So everybody has to see that. I love sticky notes and I talk about them a lot. You can just start by putting, "You're awesome. I appreciate you. You make me smile." Those sticky notes, bathroom mirror, backpacks, for your spouse, by the coffee mug, that kind of thing. And being intentional, your kid has the big math test today. You've been working with them all week and they're stressed out and don't want to go to school. They don't want to have to deal with the math test.
Been there.
Yeah, we've all been there. And
Yeah.
so you just stick a note in the backpack. You got this.
Mm-hmm.
Just, again, little simple things, being intentional to do that makes a huge, huge difference. And that eventually, because as the kids go out the door with that positivity and that kindness, and they're feeling your love as well, they're going to spread that where they go. They're not going to go, when you're in that mind frame, you're not going to start yelling and being mean to somebody.
That's so powerful.
Yeah. So like I said, be intentional, keep it simple, and that's how the kid's day starts.
You mentioned earlier you have two grown boys. Have you seen a shift in today's society with social media and the interaction with parents and children on the same platforms and now trying to be positive when there is so much negativity surrounding. And you said it starts with one little action with the parents doing that and then instilling that in the children. But do you see that it has become more of a challenge just in today's society where there is so much noise, I think is the best word for it.
And I see it, well, since the election, and in Pennsylvania, a couple of you guys.
Yeah.
But I said, people are saying, I can't sit down to the Thanksgiving table or the Christmas table because my family member disagrees with me. I'm left, they're right, or vice versa, whatever the case is. Act like the adults you are. Put that aside because you have so much more in common than a political view.
Totally.
And, you can sit down and enjoy each other. They're not always going to be there. I've actually just had a series of family members pass. So I'm just like, they're not always going to be there. And what are you going to say at the funeral? Well, they were right or they were left and I didn't want to talk. I don't even want to be here. No, you're not going to. You're going to think, gosh, I wish I had put that aside and got to enjoy the things we do have in common. It's just, again, simple stuff and be adults. Be adults.
Yeah. And it seems like it's almost like ruts that people go in to when this happens, where it's like it's something that you don't even realize is happening. And for families that are feeling stuck and they are in this, you could feel like just negative energy. I think my family has felt it at points. I come from a very loving family, but at points where you feel it, there's tension. And for the families that are feeling stuck, from your experience and what you've written, what are practical steps beyond just the note-taking of just interaction for them to take to incorporate in their daily acts of kindness?
Just in their daily acts. And again, it's almost like, sometimes like when you're working, the night before you make the to-do list for the next day.
All the time. Yeah.
Add some kindness, intentional acts of kindness onto that. And that can be, okay, most people go to the grocery store. And this is just a vein of my existence. I can't stand it when there's a grocery cart in my parking. And I think if you get little ones, oh my gosh, you got to get out of the car, move the cart, because it's the coveted close spot that always has the cart in it. And when you have little ones, you want to be as close as possible. So just, first of all, don't leave the cart in the spot. Put it in the cart corral, take it back to the store. Or if you're walking up to the store and you see a cart that's out there in the spot, take that with you. Use that cart when you go in. It's that kind of little stuff. Opening doors for people, smiling and saying hello, putting yourself, and I think this is something that has come up recently, putting yourself in a kind, positive attitude before you walk the door.
Big time.
Yeah. The sky's not falling. So let's go. And I haven't, probably one of the things that people don't understand about kindness is it does have a physical reaction in your body. And if you and I, Chuck, exchange an act of kindness, your serotonin levels go up, so do mine. Serotonin are your happy hormones. Some other people say oxytocin. Same thing. It's all happy hormones. They're all going over one act of kindness. And that's just opening a door. Something simple. But the fascinating thing that the studies have shown is that anybody that observes that, their happy hormones also go up.
So it's infectious.
So there are studies and there's actual proof that it improves our moods. And if each of us are creating that little ripple of kindness in our corner, then those are going to start growing and merging, and we can get a wave of kindness to wash across this country.
I think that's phenomenal. And there's no more of a time than we need it right now. And what about resetting? Like, say you do have a bad day or a bad week, which we always have. How do you reset where you want to? I'll take myself, for example, where I had a terrible day and I don't want to take that out on my loved one or even my daughter or people around me. How do you reset and allow yourself to spread kindness even when you're not feeling it?
Yeah. And it happens. It happens to me. Even this is like a lifestyle to me at this point. But, you got to give yourself some grace. You're going to have bad days. I
Yeah.
walked out that door going, okay, I know there's traffic. Darn, look at the time. All those things, all the things.
Yeah.
So you just have to give yourself grace. I think what some people forget is that if your kindness tank is on empty, then it's going to be harder for you to spread that kindness. So if that means getting up 15 minutes before your little ones get up, so just so you can have a quiet cup of coffee or just be alone with your thoughts, knowing you've got to prepare for the day just before everybody wakes up and think the day gets going. Or, at the end of the day, you can just have that quiet time. I enjoy a hot bubble bath, but somebody else it's something for somebody else. I like to say I provide the framework, but you customize it for you. What works for you. You don't have to do everything I do. What works for you. And that's what you have to keep in mind. And then that gives you time to fill your kindness tank back.
Got it. I love this concept of kindness tank because it really is an energy.
Yeah, it is.
And it can be, anything can be drained over time.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of work just to balance it and restarting your day. And I do want to actually talk about balancing roles as parents and as we are. How can parents balance authority with empathy to ensure a nurturing yet disciplined family atmosphere?
Yeah, and it's tough because you have peer pressure. You have they're in all these activities, so you're constantly on the run. But I like to say, check in with your kids. And I recommend asking them 3 questions over the dinner table while you're running them to all the activities. I know when my kids were growing up, we had the best conversations when I was driving them to one of their activities. So but ask them pointed questions. What was the best thing that happened to you today? What happened today that you're not so happy about? And what made you laugh? And those questions give some pretty telling ideas for a parent to find out what's going on in their kid's life. Because if they say, I didn't laugh today, that's a red flag. Should be, kids especially should be laughing all the time throughout the day. So just checking in with them. I know nieces and nephews, they use a different version. They use what's the high point of your day, what's the low point of your day. Again, customize it for you. What works for your family? What questions are going to work with you? But just checking in with them is probably the most important thing. And then remember that remind them that they're loved with the notes, with the sticky notes, but hugs. And I did research on this. You need 4 hugs just to survive, 8 hugs to maintain the status quo, and 12 to grow and thrive. And that can include dog and cat hugs, just in case anybody wanted.
I was about to say, I'm going for 20 hugs per day then, if that's the case. More the merrier. I love hugs. And
well, you've got that little one. I would be hugging her constantly.
She is definitely daddy's little girl for sure. And I'm very curious. You have nieces and nephews now. And going through those questions with them, did you notice when you first started doing it, it was tough for them to open up and it took time to start getting really deep answers with them? And now they're in kind of a rhythm with answering it versus the beginning.
It depends on what age you started.
Okay.
Most of mine started pretty in elementary school in the 3rd, 4th grade range. So it wasn't so tough for them. But I know some people that I've been talking to recently, and they said, yeah, I'm working on the high schooler. That's going to take some time. But again, in those kind of things, especially with teenagers, I wouldn't do the face-to-face eye contact. I would do driving in the car, washing dishes together, cooking together, doing an activity and adding that to the conversation. And especially teenagers will open up more in that type of environment versus the eye to eye.
Looking back on my best conversations with my parents, it was in those drives to and from sports, walking around the yard, doing activities to where it's not, you don't feel like you're in like therapy when you're
Right.
having that conversation.
Right.
Because that is such a confusing time in your life where you don't have that history behind you to kind of latch onto for experience, and you're trying to learn at the same time from the experience that your parents are trying to give you. So, and then even people around you in your community, I think
Yes.
that's important as well. And you talk about this community influence, and how do you personally envision the ripple effect of raising kind children impacting broader communities, what that does with instilling it in your, let's just say, my children, starting
Yeah.
there and then doing that for the community?
Think about your community. You have, everybody has their pockets of charity work, or, maybe the nursing home down the street or the veterans facility. You've got to expand beyond. So these people, and I'm focused on the nursing home and the veterans facility because I've dealt with that. But there's a lot of people in those places that don't have anybody.
Sure.
So if you want to you call the directors of those facilities, and they'll give you the first names of the patients. And then you can write them notes. Christmas cards right now are great. And you just put their name on the envelope and say, "Dear Joan," and write them Christmas cards. And that's a great activity to do with your kids. Just say, "Okay, we've got an hour and this is what we're going to do." And then as a family, drive to the nursing home and deliver those cards. And there you will be so surprised. I didn't know so many people didn't have anybody. It never entered my mind. And when you deliver those cards and you find out this is the only card that person's going to get this year, that is the kind of community effort and making things better that you want your kids to realize. And that can also include, like in January and February, food banks are depleted from the holidays. So take your kids to the grocery store and you get those cans for $5 or whatever it is. Keep a couple cans for home and donate a couple cans. And get your kids involved. What do you think those people are going to want to eat? And because they do love mac and cheese and peanut butter, your kids are going to be right in with that. But that's showing your kids how to give back to others. We have so much. Let's share. And again, that just helps your community so much.
It's powerful because I think this mentality of being a servant leader, you don't have to just be a leader to have that servant mindset. I firmly do believe we are all here to serve. And that's when we feel the most empowered, and also that we're contributing the most. And there's so many different forms of doing that. So I love this aspect of influencing your community by giving back. By you doing it as a parent, you instill it in your child, which then is that commonality that just keeps going. It keeps going within your community and spreads awareness for other people to do it as well. With you going on this journey that you've been doing and writing the book, have your sons taken up on it and spreading it across where they're at?
Yeah, they do. They do. I actually joined my son at his place of business. He needed extra help. So can you come help? Sure. Yeah. And I was just watching him. And then I listened to the people that work for him going, "He's amazing. He did this for me," or I needed extra hours and he just gave them, whether he really needed help or not, because they needed more hours or they needed extra time off because of a family emergency, and how empathetic he was to those things. So that was interesting. And I do have a son that worked at a restaurant and in his 20s, and they had a banquet hall downtown. And I always love this story. They loved him at the banquet hall and gave him huge, like hundreds of dollars tip. So he's walking back to his car like at 1 a.m. downtown, but paint the picture. And somebody stopped him and asked him for money. So he said, "Oh man, I was blessed tonight," and gives him, I don't know how much money, but brings out the wad of money and hands the guy money and goes on. And I'm thinking, oh, that's so nice. But as a mom, in the back of my mind, and I never said this to him, are you kidding me?
Right.
But I was proud that he did get bless someone else after since he had been so blessed.
As you were telling the story, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, such a great acting kind of. I'm like, please don't say anything happened. Don't say anything happened. So I think it's so amazing that you're spreading this message and continuing to instill it in people. And what, as far as upcoming projects, what's next for you and Journey in Kindness? Are there any new initiatives that you're working on or projects on the horizon?
I am trying to develop an educational program.
Nice.
Beyond my speaking engagements, because those are usually just one-offs, but actually do an actual class, which I'm developing right now. But really right now I am doing the speaking engagements. I hit the parents, the PTOs, any club or organization. I go out and speak with those, and I love it. I love it. It's just, you just stand in front of, and you can just feel it. You feel it in the atmosphere. And I do thoroughly enjoy that.
I'm outside of Philadelphia area. You're in Cincinnati. I'm sure there's going to be tons of listeners that are not by us. So how can individuals and communities support your mission? I'm sure grab the book for one.
Yeah.
And the other is just how can they contribute to promoting kindness in their own areas and that aren't our neighbors?
Yeah, you can go to journeyandkindness.com. That's my webpage. And if you want to reach out to me, you click the button.
Yep.
And I have a Facebook group. It is private, but so ask to join and I'll let you in. So
the dog supports it.
Screaming ever kindness.
Full support.
I do want to offer all of your listeners, I have a freebie, and it's 75 acts of kindness checklist. So if you totally don't know where to start, here's 75 ways to start. And you can make that a game. With the kids, which one do you want to do today?
Teresa, I can't thank you enough for just your openness, your vulnerability, and just giving our listeners and myself so many things that we can act on and insights from your journey and what you're spreading. I want to ask you also, do you have any questions for me that you're curious about?
You're the inspiration for me.
Thank you.
I just think there's days where I didn't get that speaking engagement. I really wanted it, or, it's letting things get me down. And I said, it didn't. I'm sure there were days that you got let down, but how did you keep going on those rougher days?
That's a phenomenal question. I think it really just starts with gratitude. I think if you start with gratitude at the beginning of every single day, it's the foundation to start a good day, because you're going to get smacked in the face one way or another, whether it's your job or you're feeling a little sick or something happens on the road. There's always going to be a million different variables that come into your time and your space. I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. I actually, you know what? I got one more question for you.
Okay.
How are you getting 1% better every single day?
It's a tough one. No, it is. It's the sit down. I have a set hour that I have to do something to make this project better, to make my journey better. And I actually sit 8 to 9 every morning after I've gone exercised and all that. I sit down and say, okay, what are we going to do? I have to work on this, this, and this. And I do it no matter what.
Yeah, you have to set that time. I like this podcast for me. I have to set the time to make sure that preparation, getting everything in order. So my hours are a little bit different, but that's everybody. Everybody has their own way of doing things. Once again, Teresa, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Can't thank you enough. We'll definitely be following you in your journey. If anybody wants to reach out to Teresa, I'll be providing her information.
And thank you, Chuck, so much for giving me the opportunity to spread more kindness today.
Oh, you got it. All right, everyone. You have a great rest of your day, and thank you for enjoying another episode of 1% Better. Take care.